A quick bit of housekeeping before we get to today's video. When I announced that I was bringing out this book, The Meaning in the Making, so many of you flooded my comment sections and sent me messages and emails asking if I would do an audiobook version of this. So for the last month, that's what I've done. I've sat and read through my entire book. And I suppose that means two things. One is that I'm completely sick of the sound of my own voice. But two, the good news is, if you're one of those people who wanted this book as an audiobook, it's now available for purchase on my website. And it is the full version of the book, all read by me. And I'll leave a link down below. But let's get on to the topic of today's video. I personally love hearing stories of photographers, or any artists for that matter, and the journeys they took to discovering their longer term projects. Because I think in hearing about how other people discover the focus for their work or the direction for the narrative they want to build into the things that they're making, it can also help us think about how we can go about looking for our particular focus for our work. Ben Burfitt was working your average day job, but fast falling out of love with the daily grind and as quickly falling in love with the medium of photography. So he made the brave decision to quit the day job and take himself off to university as a mature student in his middle years to study photography and see if he could make photography the thing that paid the bills. These days, Ben is probably best known online for his dramatic, humorous and compelling images of dogs at play. And the story of how he got there reminds me that all our paths are different, but your next creative project could be closer than you think if you learn how to pay attention to your everyday and work out what it is about the things that you walk past or the things you interact with that actually, if they're photographed in the right way and presented to the world, can make for a really strong body of work. So I'm going to shut up now and let you hear from my friend Ben Burfitt.
I think I looked up one university, sort of photography courses, London, BA or whatever. Sent an application in, I got an interview, went along for the interview, and they accepted me. Okay, cool, now I'm at university as a mature student, don't really know what I'm doing. The course was called Photographic Arts, so I just thought, photography, isn't it, it'll be fine. Yeah, and then sort of as it kind of dawned on me what I'd got myself into, it was like, 50% of this is theory-based and 50% is practical. Okay, yeah, theory-based. I'd never written an essay in my entire life. It was like, okay, so the first thing we're going to do is write an essay. Oh, brilliant. I think if I knew what I was doing before I went, I probably wouldn't have gone, because I wanted to be a street photographer, do you know what I mean? That was what I was interested in, like street photography and documentary photography. And this was kind of, there was small elements of it, but a lot of the course was kind of art photography and a lot of photography theory. But it was great, it was really good to learn all that stuff and to be thinking about that stuff. I got a first, amazingly, I don't know how that happened, but came out of uni and it's like you've been in this bubble for 3 years of making work, and you put your work up on a wall and people like your work, and then you come out of university and it's like, oh shit, like now what do I do? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, well, there are people there like to get into the industry, as it were. There are people doing internships, but a lot of those are unpaid. And so I was like, well, this door's kind of opened and I've walked down this path a bit. I don't want to turn back. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to go back and start driving vans or anything like that. But what do I do? Do you know what I mean? Like, do I go back to uni and do an MA? Like, do I just live my life in university? But it's photographs are what I want to do. And while I was at uni, my girlfriend had set up a dog walking business. And I was adamant when I came out. She's like, come do some work. I was like, no, I'm a photographer. Like, I've got a first from uni. Like, I'm going off and doing that. I'm not going to do dog. That's your thing. Like, you've set it up. Then, I don't know, probably about a year out of university, girlfriend got pregnant. So I started joining in the dog walking a little bit. As she got more and more pregnant, she was less and less able to do the dog walking. And then there was a point where the doctor was like, look, you can't do dog walking anymore. I think she went far, like she went like 7 months dog walking. But the doctor's like, you are not doing dog walking anymore. So then I kind of took over full time. Yeah, and I didn't want to take photos of dogs. Like, that wasn't anything I was going to do. But she was she would take photos on the walks of the dogs and little videos and send them to the owners every day on WhatsApp. And at that point, I didn't have a smartphone. I remember when I came out of university, I was like, nope, not having a smartphone. I've only had a smartphone for about a year. So I had a little Nokia that's got Snake on it and a little LED light on it. I had that for about 5 years. So I couldn't take photos of the dogs to send to the owners. So I had this little Fuji thing. So I took that with me and I took a few photos of the dogs and got home. And we would walk at a time, I think it was like 3 one-hour walks, 4 dogs on each walk. So then I'd get home and it was like, how many photos have I got to edit and send out every day? Like, this is nonsense, I'm not doing this. And I'd never been on Instagram. Like, I was on Flickr and I was on Tumblr. Like, I know those were the cool photo sharing sites. That's where it was all happening. And I thought Instagram was like, there's people on holiday and it's lunches and it's, do you know what I mean? And it's, you know, toast with spinach on it or whatever like that. That was my kind of view of Instagram. And then there were a few people that had, like crossover people that were putting actual photos on Instagram, but you had to go through like a process of, you had to get this like third-party software, and it was difficult to upload to Instagram anyway. But that's what I started doing, because I was like, well, if I upload to Instagram, then I can just tell all the customers that's where the photos are going to be. So I haven't got to email out individually anything, they can just go on Instagram. And then I kind of was looking on Instagram, I was like, oh, there's actually a lot of the people I follow on Flickr are on here, and there's some big name people on here. So I started following them, and I followed a few of the Magnum guys and a few of the sort of street photographers who I'd kind of were my sort of heroes, who I loved their work. Anyway, I went out to work, came back, and like quite a lot of them have followed me back. Okay, like this is something. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like it wasn't the kind of the sort of sycophantic thing you get on Flickr where someone would like your photo or comment just so you like theirs. It was like these were actual people that were doing stuff, and it was like, okay, maybe I'm onto something here. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so then I guess I kind of felt a little bit of pressure that I've got these eyes on me of people that I kind of admire their work. So I've got to try and be a bit consistent now. Do you know what I mean? I've got to try and take slightly better photos. And then, yeah, and I think at some point I had in my mind that I'm going to try and do like street photography with dogs in a park. Like, if that, do you know what I mean? I kind of, all the street photography I'd absorbed by being on Flickr and Tumblr, I was like, I'm going to try and do this with dogs in a park. But I don't think I ever actually said it to myself, but it was kind of like a thought in my head that I was trying to do. You're not supposed to have favourites, but I've got some favourites. Do you know what I mean? I've got the few muses kind of emerged throughout the project. I've got there's the French bulldog who crops up quite a bit. Loki, an amazing dog. There's a cockapoo called Wilf, absolutely amazing dog. He crops up quite a lot. Who else? There's Max. There's Max, who's a completely mad spaniel, and there's Dolly, who is a Pouchon. But I mean, some of these dogs, like, just you could always count on some dogs. Like, I knew if I've got Wilf on a walk or if I've got Loki on a walk, something brilliant's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Something, I might not get a photo of it, but something amazing will happen. Like, they're just fun to watch. And there's a dog, Wilf, and there's a Border Terrier, Wookie. And they were, and it's nice actually, being a dog walker is lovely because you see the sociability of the dogs. Like, you get certain dogs and you curate your walk so that dogs, and they have bonds and they make these friendships. And so these dogs have their best friends and they get in the boot of the people carrier and they just start playing in the boot of the car while you're driving. There's always barking in the back of the cars going like this while you're driving. Yeah, and it's a lovely thing to watch, do you know what I mean? And even before I took the photo, I used to love watching dogs playing. Like when I got my dog and you just watch them play, and it's like, and I guess it's the same thing why people like watching boxing in a way. Do you know what I mean? Or wrestling. It's like, and it's almost a dance. Do you know what I mean? Because it looks quite serious. Their teeth are out and they're going at each other's faces, but you know, it's good natured and friendly. And one will be on top for a bit, then the other, okay, you can win for a bit, and you know, so it's a lovely thing to watch. And yeah, man, it's a wonderful job. I'm privileged to have done it, I think. I've heard a lot of people say you get like one good image a year. And when I first started, I was like, rubbish, lad. I go out shooting and I come back with 20 good images. Do you know what I mean? And the more you know, and the more photos you take, I guess you start to realise actually, yeah. If I'm honest, I get like one really good image a year. Like, so yeah, I guess throughout the 3 or 4 years I was shooting, it's probably like 3 or 4 images. I've got there's one. And it was the very last image I shot that day, and I think that maybe it was the last image of the week actually. And I'd had a week where I hadn't taken many pictures I liked, and we were walking back to the car, and these dogs that don't normally play together suddenly started playing together, and I was just about to put my camera away, and I was like, oh, here we go, and it's like, and it is an image I've been trying to get for ages, like for probably about a year. It's one of those, and it's you've got one dog on this side, and the other dog's kind of on its back here. And then through the middle of the dogs, there's another dog framed by those 2 dogs. And I was like, this is the kind of street photo that I like, and this is what I've been trying to do with dogs. And it's like, it's an image, there's no way on earth you could pose that image, and there's no way on earth I could probably get that again. And then another one I would say is probably the French Bulldog Loki. And he's got a ball in his mouth, and he's like shaking his head like that, and there's all this spit flying out to the side. It's like, it's just the chaos and the sort of, you know, the smelliness and that whole thing of dogs is kind of, I think it really comes through in that picture. And his eyes are really mad in it as well, and I appreciate that. Do you know, I appreciate just the sort of lunacy of that picture. Like, I mean, yeah, the chaos of the dogs is kind of big central part of the project, you know, because I think dogs have been like horrifically misrepresented in photography. Not so much in photography, but in sort of commercial and sort of public-facing photography, like calendars and stuff. You know, like it's always kind of like a L'Oreal wash dog with soft focus. You know, and the dogs aren't like that. You know, like dogs, they're smelly and they roll around and they bark and they chew each other's faces and they roll in all sorts of nonsense, and they, you know what I mean, they jump in and out of the water, and it's like, yeah, I think after a while of working with the dogs every day, you kind of, you know where the stuff is going to be. You know, it's like a street photographer, I guess. Like a street photographer's day, you kind of, if you work the same bit, like Matt Stewart stuff, you could tell he's been up and down Oxford Street 1,000 times. Do you know what I mean? And he knows where the light's going to be, and he knows where these bits are. And it was like, yeah, I knew where the dogs would potentially do some interesting stuff, and you know, and I didn't want to sit there with a camera and holding a treat or something. I couldn't hold a treat, actually, to be fair. I've got a camera in one hand and the flash in the other hand, so unless I've got a treat balanced on my head, like, it's not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it is just letting the dogs do what they do and taking photos of the dogs there. Do you know, it's very much like, and I tried to avoid any kind of sort of man-made infrastructure. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of almost like when you're looking at the images, I kind of wanted it to look like this is the dog world, like, you know? This is dogs in the dog world doing dog stuff. Because I think the dogs in the human world has been done really well by other people, you know, like you say dog photography, everyone's like, oh, Elliot Irwitt, and that very much is dogs as human companions, and this is dogs as dogs, like, you know. I think someone said, I don't know, it's like Winogrand or someone, that if it's a street photo, you should be able to smell the street in the photo, and I kind of took it, if it's a dog photo, you should be able to smell wet dog. You should be able to smell the dog breath when you look at that. Do you know what I mean? That was part of my rules. Like, if you can smell wet dog and if you can smell dog breath in the photo, like, I've done what I need to do. Do you know what I mean? And also, like, when I'm looking at images, I'm like, if it looks anything like a calendar picture, if it looks too sweet, like, it's out. Like, do you know what I mean? That's not for me. I mean, I would say to anyone who's looking for a project, like, look at where you are. Like, look what you can do easily. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're looking to do a project and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to travel an hour every day, or I'm going to travel 2 hours, and oh, I can only make a good project if I go to abroad somewhere. Or like, it's quite tempting to think that. Like, I think I used to think that. Like, I need to go to these places where the amazing stuff is. It's like, actually, I think the key really is making some good stuff out of everyday things. You know, like making the most out of what you've got, and everyone's got something that they do, or the way they see something that's completely different to the way anyone else does. And that's the good stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, if people can just shoot what's around them, what's kind of unique to them, their unique way of seeing things. You know, photograph the same bus stop you go to work at every day. Do you know what I mean? After 2 years, you'll be the best bus stop photographer there is. Do you know what I mean? Or photograph your fridge every day. Like, I'd be quite interested to see 2 years of someone's fridge. Like, that might be quite, you'd get good at it by the end, you know? It's just a simple thing, you know? I think, yeah, you don't need to go and do this grand thing, I think. Just do your local thing, do something that's easy to do, something sustainable as well. Do you know? It's got to be something that interests you. You've got to really do it for yourself, I think.